added to something. I worked primarily in film. 22 years there, and then I moved back here I started going in.
Ready when you are.
Or, yeah,
Yeah, so.
I have another event.
Does that mean you're gonna see, or you have to follow the log, or keep track of them, or what? Oh, I've watched mine. Mine's not.
All right, great. So we are gonna have a brief conversation, if that's all right with you guys. We don't wanna honor your guys' time that you all came out today. We have somebody on Zoom, I believe, that's listening tonight. And so we wanna welcome folks. We are pivoting a little bit. My name is Ricardo Garcia Costa. I'm the chair of the Oakland Police Commission. We're joined tonight by Judge Emilio Grillo, Commissioner Grillo. He is with us as well as our chief of staff, Micah Montgomery. And our city staffer, Mario. I'll tell you your last name again, my brother. Goldsby.
Yes.
And he's been with us, taking diligent notes, at all of our community forums, and he will be at our next upcoming 2 community forums as well. So I want to thank you, Mario, for capturing the community's voice. And so we do want to honor that we have a couple people in the audience today, and we have a couple folks on Zoom. And we will apologize for starting late, but we want to have a brief conversation. We're on the way to see if more folks trickle in. But at this time, we will continue as originally planned to have a brief conversation. So I wanted to welcome another esteemed future colleague of ours, fingers crossed, Mr. Doug Wong, and his wife, ma'am, what's
Linda.
and Linda Wong. Great to meet you all. We're gonna have quite an intimate conversation here to talk a little bit about your expectations as community members for our next chief and as we go through the process. So for the public, for the audience that's on the public right now, we will, do you have the timeline on this?
Yes.
We will just cover a couple important dates that are coming up, because it's gonna be really important that we continue to get the word out. This is now, thank you. This is now the 4th community listening session that we've had, and we are hosting these across the city. We've had one in Deep East Oakland. We've had one in North Oakland, also here off of High Street at Imani Church, in the MacArthur Laurel District area. And then our next 2 that we're gonna be having is at the Asian Cultural Center, and that is on April 2nd, I believe, and at the same time, 6 to 7:30. And then following that, we will be going into
But we have the 30th first.
The 30th.
The 30th at Defremery.
30th
That's
at
our
Defremery,
next
excuse me.
one.
The 30th at Defremery Park, which is gonna be important to get some of our West Oakland community out. And then April 2nd, will be at the Asian Cultural Center, downtown Chinatown, and we hope to be working with key stakeholders there to get the word out to community as well. So real briefly, for the police chief search timeline, we're really hoping to, we're on schedule, which is a good thing. And part of the schedule is to be doing these community sessions where we're engaging community, hearing directly from our community members on several questions that we're interested in getting feedback from. And we've also have been directing folks to our online website that we've created for the police search, which is oaklandca.gov/police-chief. And so I'll repeat that again for the public. It is oaklandca.gov/police-chief. And at that website, you can find more information about community forums. You can also find the survey translated in several languages as well, where you could give direct feedback on some of your expectations for the commission as we embark on the search of a new police chief. In regards to the timeline, we are in the month of March right now and head on right in the middle of our community engagement process. As we synthesize this feedback, work with the city, get our notes, we will be working with our search firm to look at all of the notes and everything that we've heard from various communities and be formulating 2 things. 1, our criteria and questions for the police chiefs that we're going to be interviewing. And 2, be providing information to our fellow commissioners for their consideration as well as we move forward with selecting potential candidates for the mayor. Now, how that works is this. In late April, we're gonna be looking and narrowing down. We have about, from what I'm hearing, we have about double-digit candidates as of right now, and including, you may publicly have seen this, our interim chief Beer has also thrown his name in the hat and has been excited about the application process. And so we're gonna be diligently meeting with the community, going through all of the potential candidates and narrowing them down to a minimum of 4 candidates to forward to the mayor. The mayor, once she receives those 4 candidates and mid to June, to early July, she will be doing her own independent process and bringing in each candidate, before she's making the final selection for Oakland's new police chief. So that is the current timeline that we're on, and right now is one of the most important processes is getting information directly from the community, hearing from folks, groups large and groups small as well. And when they're small, we have the opportunity to have a more intimate conversation, and to talk a little bit more about some of the priorities for the chief. At this time, I would like to check in with our chief of staff or Commissioner Grillo if there's any other comments, anything you'd like to add?
No, that's great.
Awesome. Okay, great. So let's just get into this. We have a series of 6 questions. And we've been asking the same 6 questions to all of our community members. So tonight we have an opportunity to engage you two all, and to be able to hear a little bit about how you feel. We do have folks online that are on Zoom that are watching as well too. They cannot comment, but they are able to hear the dialogue that is happening tonight. So just to let you all know that as well. All right, so to start off, what we're gonna talk about, yes.
They're also able to fill out the survey in either English, Spanish, or Chinese via the links that are on Zoom. So they'll be able to answer the questions as well that way.
Sounds good. All right, so as we get started, we're actually not gonna talk specifically about the chief himself or the potential new chief, but more so the police department in general. And what we'd like to hear from the community is what are the top 5 priorities or priorities in general that you feel that the Oakland Police Department should be prioritizing as a department? What are some of the priorities that the Oakland Police Department needs to be considering right now as their top priorities? So we'll give you guys a chance to think, since you guys are gonna be put on the spot. It's like a speed dating interview right now. So, I think some of the things that we've heard in other community sessions has been around 911 response times, has been certainly around public safety, right? And keeping the crime levels down. We're in the midst of historic crime and of both shootings and homicides being down in the city of Oakland, but how do we sustain that, right? How did it not just be a trend? And so there's been a number of things that have come up. Obviously getting off of the NSA. So those are some of the common themes that we've heard, but if there's anything in particular that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think, not in this particular, not in priority, but, community policing. Ceasefire, that's another one, traffic enforcement. That's a tough one, and then, of course, hiring more police officers. Forgot what the other one was.
That's a great list, and so, and with community policing, yeah, go ahead. And tell me a little bit more about community policing. We've heard that come up a couple times. I think different people have different interpretations of what community policing
Yeah,
is.
it's, getting the police officers out there, meeting the merchants, meeting the people, attending meetings. More so like meetings that I go to Redwood Heights, that area, and sometimes I went down at the Mills College area. And it's always nice to see police officers show up, understand what their patrol beats are. A lot of people don't understand that city's divided into areas. And then she get to meet the captain in charge of that area, patrol officers. Of course, burglaries, stolen cars, all that. That seems to be the most, in that area with stolen cars and burglaries. But, and of course, the smash and grab and the using of stolen cars to break into businesses. That's right. I don't understand how police officers, police stop this, especially with breaking in or having people robbed, other than having the public notify the police department. This is going on. I know sideshows are a big concern in the communities. I think she got caught in one, so that was kind of terrifying for her.
Yeah. It's gonna be scary for sure.
Want to add anything else?
Community policing is making a difference. We were active in Chinatown. And, I'm trying to recruit my friends to come into Oakland to patronize the businesses. And once I explained to them the walking patrols and whatnot that Oakland Chinatown established, they're more comfortable to come in to shop and linger in Oakland and turn around and leave an hour later. So public safety is my primary concern.
Absolutely. And then, you know, I heard you mention the patrols, right? And I think one of the things that was shown pretty effective in Chinatown was having both joint participation of both community members and foot patrol officers working together, right? So I definitely think that that's an effective form of community policing for sure. And then, sir, you also mentioned ceasefire, right? That's our city's gun violence reduction strategy. And so that's something that we know is being credited to a lot of the downtick in crime right now. And so, yeah, so I'm glad you had mentioned that as well too. Yeah. All right. Did you want to mention anything, any priorities for the police department? I know you've participated before, but you could absolutely repeat and we could put another check mark by it as well.
Okay, and
Yes,
actually,
ma'am.
I was talking to people out there and they're talking to the other librarians to see if they can get them to fill out the survey.
Oh, beautiful.
So,
Thank you for helping with that.
Your
out.
daughter came out and gave us the QR code because I was telling them to type it in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of believe there are 3 priorities. That's the subject we're on.
Yes.
Okay, number 1,
For the
NSA.
department itself.
Okay, NSA number 1, there's 3 tasks left to be done. I had hoped, because I come from the business world, but it's also the creative world, which is you got an objective, you take the tasks and you work on that, you start on that, and you ask people to talk about that. In the meetings that I've been in, the police chief or the deputy, police chief, it's on the piece of paper, but they don't say anything about it. So I don't have any idea whether there's any work or change. So number 1, NSA, 3 tasks left. And I think I read somewhere that OIG wants to go back and audit some of the other tasks, which were already signed off on. I think you need to get those 3 done. You want Oakland to be responsible for Oakland. You don't want a federal monitor to be responsible for Oakland, because I think Oakland can do it if they have the authority, the freedom, and work together collaboratively, et cetera. So number 1, NSA. Number 2, this item has never been talked about in any of the meetings that I have attended, which is that the police mentioned that, 618 openings, 495 filled. But when you look to the far lower right-hand corner, it says right there that there are potentially 70 retirements this year. And if there's 70 and there's 495, that's a pretty big percentage of 495. So I would really like to know that there is a more robust, thing to make being a police officer a desirable job to have. And then today in the newspaper, it said that 20% of the city's openings are unfilled. That's a pretty high vacancy rate given the market. So there's something that isn't happening that isn't making policing attractive as a career or a job. I know that OIG and other people have projects out there, but there has to be more. Because if you can't replace 70 people, Oakland is just, that's not good. So that's my second priority. And the third that kind of just rankles me is I know that City of Oakland is, not doing great financially. And then when I see that there's overtime happening for, I don't know, 1 guy, or I don't remember, but it was like $500,000. This is a lot. And the point is that if overtime isn't being managed in a way that there've been 3 things that have happened that make Oakland look bad. Number 1, the overtime thing. Number 2, someone being able to walk into the mayor's office and steal her car. And then the third thing that's in the news is, somebody went into the police department and tried to steal something. They were caught. But the point is that are people trying to make Oakland look bad? And that's something, I really hope could change, but managing the money, managing, I don't know, the number that are on disability, whatever it is, but There should be some kind of responsibility for maximizing the dollars that we do have. Okay, I'm done.
No, that's fabulous feedback and it's great insight. And you know, from hearing you correctly, it's really focused on OPD's transparency and getting the public and the community to know where they're at with these tasks, right? And how can we all be together supporting getting off these tasks that we can have localized oversight here and not be farming out this this money. And believe me, we see those invoices that go out, right, to this outside monitor, and we want to be able to bring those dollars home, right?
Well, that would be great.
And and also remaining focused on those outstanding tasks and not maybe uncovering other things that have already been closed.
I would actually like to, because I've been to a couple of meetings and, you know, I kind of want, if this is our priority. And I thought it was, but I could be wrong. I could be very wrong because this is all new to me. But, you know, let's hear on task, 1, 2, 4, 5, whatever it is. Let's start there and delve into that. And maybe
Absolutely.
ad hoc meetings could happen, the ad hoc meeting reports could happen like once a month instead of every week. Because what happens is there's so much going on that it's too much.
Hmm.
And focus is really NSA, having a renewable source of police officers who want to be here, and then thirdly, managing, you know, overtime / the money.
Yeah, and I'm also hearing like when it comes to staffing, right, not only recruiting and getting new people to want to join our department, right, but want to join our city in general, right? I saw that report as well, which is pretty concerning.
Yeah, I'm
And then,
surprised.
and then for the folks that are eligible, so that eligibility, the eligibility list to retire, that doesn't mean that 70 are gonna retire, but 70 qualify to retire, right? So how do we also, you know, have retention and make sure
Yeah.
that folks stay, or if not, have some level of contingency plans too, knowing that those 70 might also say, hey, no, we
Yeah.
wanna go live our lives and retire and nothing about the city or the department, but just, it's that time for them personally too, right? And we have to be prepared for that. And so that.
We had the academy class graduate,
It's at 21, 14.
and then we have another academy class.
23, 21, 14.
And fiscal responsibility, right, is what I'm hearing as well too, right? The overtime and making sure that if we have a finite amount of resources, that those are going to the right places. And that, you know, that there's some transparency around that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, but I think some of the ad hoc committees have the opportunity to get contracts done. You know, I like, I don't know, fiscal management is fine.
Sounds good. All right, well, thank you. We can move on to the next question, which is a little bit more now specific around the chief, right? And we know that Oakland is a unique city, right? We're also, depending on what your perception is of Oakland, you could be scared of Oakland, you could be very proud of Oakland, you could be both at one time, right? It's very unique, very diverse. And as we're doing a national search, and we're casting a pretty wide net, we also want to know that we have a police chief here that's going to be responsive to the unique qualities of Oakland. So one of the things we want to hear from you all are, what do you think are some of the 5 attributes or just attributes in general, skills or characteristics, excuse me, that the next police chief should have? What are some of the things, qualities? What, when you envision not just a great police chief in general of any department, but a great police chief for the city of Oakland, what do you envision? What kind of qualities do you see in that chief?
One that can manage the politics of Oakland.
That's a good one. Managing the politics of Oakland. Got that, Maureen? Want to put that all in caps?
And nobody
police chiefs
So that, you know, they go and spread stuff and I move the reader and I go ugly, stupid, you know, but if you have that kind of agile communication skills, you know how to talk to the press, you know how to talk to the commission, you know how to talk to the federal court guy, you know, or your underlings or your peers. So I think that probably, if you can do that, you both you have to have them being to all the different aspects of what Oakland is, whether it's regional, religious, ethnic, whatever it happens to be. So I think underneath that lies. But the other thing that I really look for, and I look for this in everything, leadership. I want to see leadership, and that's defined to me as you have to be able to inspire people. You have to be able to make decisions, and they could be hard decisions, but you got to stand by your decisions or know why you made them and then communicate effectively. And the last one is to know how to set priorities so that people know this is what we're aiming for. I mentioned being in an organization where we write mission statements. They're not all great, but at least that way, if there's something going on, you can ask, does this fit the priority that we've established? Oh, yeah, we want to do that, but it might come a little later. So if you have a good sense of priority, you can make tough decisions and you can inspire people. And you got that agile thing going on. That's and then the other guy out here, I was talking to him and I was telling him what was going on in here, and he said, "Oh, that's so important." And he goes, and then he just started spewing out all of his thoughts. And I just went, "You should be at the meeting." And he said, "I can't, I'm working, you know," and then her daughter came out with the QR code. But the thing that he surprised me by, he said, emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
You know yourself, know how people react, read them, which is listening skills, you know, really good listening skills, having empathy. So,
Absolutely.
okay, I'm done.
Yeah, no, those are great qualities, and I don't think we should lower the bar. I think we should continue to set those and really look at those type of qualities, because setting those priorities are super important. Making tough decisions, having the courage to make those hard decisions and stand by them, and then be able to follow up accordingly, be transparent, and to be agile. I love that, and to meet people where they're at, right? And hey, that's a great example of how you just met that person where they're at, and sometimes when you go and meet them where they're at, they have all kinds of things to share.
You couldn't stop talking, and I
Yeah.
finally had to say, and then she came out and rescued me, and so then he was walking over to the other two librarians, and he's going over the piece of paper with them.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, are you gonna get them to do it too?" Because yeah, I'm working on it right now,
That's right.
which is cool.
People, don't always have the resources or the time to,
Yeah.
be in certain spaces, but when you meet them and you're agile, then you get a lot of information as well too. Great, thank you. All right, let's talk about, and we've heard some things and examples already for this question. But if there's anything else that comes to mind, definitely, please share with us. But we talked about some of the priorities for the department, right? And there may be some overlap with some of the priorities for the actual chief himself, right? So we want to hear from you all. What are the top priorities that you feel like the next police chief should carry and should really champion on as the chief himself, not just the department, not within the context of the department, but the chief himself? What are the priorities that he's or she's to focus on?
First thing comes to mind is fiscal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility, got that? All right.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about the overtime, we talked about staffing, right? One thing that's interesting that you may notice, if you look at the template that OPD reports on, there's up to 90 officers that are on administrative leave. Some are on medical leave, some are on administrative leave. There's some that have been on long-term leave, costing the city over $3 million a year, right? And so how do we address that issue head on? How do we have the agility and the courage and the leadership, right? To say, hey, we're going to do things a little different, right? We're not going to just do the status quo. And so that's one of the things that comes to mind for me when I hear, fiscal responsibility. Oakland, we know Oakland doesn't generate as much as we would like it to, or at something we would hope it will. So we have to really be, really conscious of how we use our finite resources. Any other priorities that you guys think that the chief should take on, or that this candidate should embody? And I'll couple this with the next question. what do you all think are some of the qualifications and background needed for the next police chief? Kind of talked a little bit about this too, when we talked about culture, responsiveness on the city. But if there's any other qualifications or backgrounds, because what might make a great chief in another city may not make a great chief here from.
Well, if you put it that way, then it makes sense that if you think about what Oakland is, and you define Oakland as it is, you know, you would hope that the candidate comes from another city or Oakland that has some familiarity with those same issues, proven, you know, what's your experience doing ceasefire or what you call it, sideshows? You mentioned sideshows, you know, like, do you have sideshows in your city? And, you know, like, I'm not sure that would be on top of my list, but, you know, racial diversity would be number one on that list. And also economic disparity.
Hmm.
You know, I think that's huge because you're going to find a lot of cities with a lot of racial diversity, but, you know, the city itself is more kind of in a middle area. And here in Oakland, we got a lot of, you know, tech pros and we got, you know, people in other places. I think the economic disparity range, you know how they have those, I go to the, I've done a lot of research and there's websites that say, here's the profile for this city. Here's it broken down by age, by ethnicity, by top 10 companies in this area, average income, how many single, divorced, blah, blah, blah. And then what's the average cost of a house in that city? So I would like, it'd be awesome if it could happen. A person who has experience with a city that has the same economic range that Oakland has, because, you know, it's kind of, somebody at that last meeting talked about, you know, the Montclair people are worried about parking spaces or something like that. But, you know, well, West Oakland, they don't want you to come at all. So, yeah, that's not what we want. But, you know, the range. So somebody who's familiar with some of the same aspects that define Oakland. I think that would be useful.
Experience they have,
Mm.
and the education they have. I mean, we go from the port to manufacturing to, you know, chemicals that run in the freeways that go through the city. You know, plus trains and, you know, or all this stuff that, and how well do we work with other departments?
Mm.
We have the sheriffs, we have park police, we have Coast Guard for the port and in Berkeley and San Leandro, sometimes Orinda, Concord County Sheriffs. I remember, because I used to work out there, they always used to tell me, oh, you guys in Oakland, you guys in Oakland. They're like,
What's that mean?
it used to irritate me. They would buy a fare part to get the guy into Oakland,
What? One way.
one way. You know, they have social services,
Wow.
it's a lot better than here.
Wow.
They buy a ticket.
Prior to COVID, Marin County were putting their homeless on a bus, dumping them in our neighborhood. I mean, there's no cooperation between agencies. The city did not know about this, so it's more than just the local agencies, but the regional agencies that they can work.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I think even within Oakland, there's so much multi-agency coordination that has to happen. It's very layered, but the Bay Area, we all know, is very transient and folks skip from Oakland to San Francisco to Richmond. And how do we have a regional approach, right? How do our different departments be able to communicate with each other that may have different standards, different values, right? But we all need to work together, right? So I think the regional conversation is really important as well, too. Sure. Anything else anybody would like to add? Any other background stuff talked about education? We talked about understanding, you know, all the different things that Oakland has to offer, right? Be able to be responsive to that.
Community policing, you brought that up.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I don't know how many large cities or cities do community policing as policy. Do you have any idea?
I don't. That's a good question.
I mean, so
And it feels like it's a buzzword that like that has its ebbs and flows, that sometimes some departments are committed to it and sometimes they're not, you know?
15 years ago, I was living in Santa Monica and I happened to know a former police chief, former mayor, and I was doing research for him on community policing back then.
Mhm.
So it's been around, but I don't know how pervasive it is in large cities, whether it's, like people like it, people don't like it. I've never, well, I did know then, but now, are there pros and cons? I mean, but somebody who's had experience with community policing would kind of make sense.
Yeah. And so you all know too, in the last meeting next week we were at, they talked about the NCPCs, the Neighborhood Crime Prevention Councils, and how those had to be disbanded because of budget cuts, right? And those some of the challenges that now the city has because we don't have these localized formal efforts of community neighbors that are really communicating with one another, identifying projects that are localized for their neighborhoods, right? So it'd be interesting to know from a candidate, whether they're an internal candidate or outside candidate, what do they feel about bringing those back, right? There was already an infrastructure there. There was already neighborhood champions that were already organizing their localized communities. And how do we embrace that as part of our ecosystem of public safety as well, right? Great. Okay, so as we start to wind down, what time is it? We're
7:19.
okay. Well, I want to first thank you all for hanging in there with us, having this dialogue. I feel like I'm speaking into the abyss right now to a certain degree, but it gives us an opportunity to have this intimate conversation. Gives us an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better, sir. And I'm excited to continue to work with you. But as we wrap it up, just anything else that maybe we haven't discussed or haven't covered that just kind of popcorn just off the top of your head, like, is there anything that we left out? Anything that you want us to know? Anything that you feel is critical as the commission embarks on this search and starts vetting candidates, starts developing questions, starts developing? One of the things that came up in our last meeting, we were asked about the criteria, the metrics in which we're going to evaluate, right? And that's going to be developed through these conversations. Because as we develop and hear common themes that we're taking note of, and certain things that keep coming up, well, those are going to be the things that are at the forefront of our evaluation as we're developing our metrics and evaluation. So if there's anything else that you would like to add?
One of the things that comes up in community meetings is, because they look at me as just a citizen. They say, well, police officer should be black, police chief should be black. Because this, I'm more white, or we can relate to it. And ask why is that? And they can't answer, but they feel more comfortable, whatever it is. And I start laughing. I said, well, how about if somebody's multiracial with that? Put that for the. And I flat out tell them, no, that should not be a factor. Period. But it still comes up in conversation.
That's all right.
And we also can't be afraid to name that either, right? Like we should be looking at the qualifications, the background, the love, the know-how of the city, all the great things that we talked about today, right? And should racial politics really get involved in that, right? And from what we've heard, and you're not the only one, we've heard this in other communities. We hear this conversations we have with other community members all the time, that we don't want to have a racially politically appointed person, right? For the good or the bad. We just want somebody that's qualified and loves Oakland and knows Oakland, right? And those seem to be the themes that rise to the top. So thank you for even mentioning. Sure.
Right, I do have a comment. And so keep in mind that, yes, we're garnering information from the community. And yes, the commissioners will be making the decision, but we are also held to HR standards. So there are certain things you can't, hire someone based upon. So just rest assured that this is getting all of the qualitative data that they can use to make their decision, but we are definitely following the procedures of HR in getting the new chief hired.
That's right. This is a really important process and a critical phase in our city right now, right? We've we've heard a lot of community around, you know, some of the embarrassment around just having so many chiefs in such a little bit amount of time, right? And so we're really hoping that by embarking in this process, by being very thoughtful, that we can have somebody that's gonna stick around, that's gonna roll their sleeves up and do the work, and the sweat equity that it takes for all of us to do our part for a better Oakland. So part of it is you all coming here today, and sharing your thoughts. It's great to see you again and sharing your thoughts as well. I hope to see you all at the Infirmary Park and at the Asian Cultural Center as well, because and if not, you all just helping spread the word to our community members, to our fellow residents, because every voice counts and every voice does matter. But I want to leave you all with the last voice. With that being said, is there any last burning questions or comments that you all may have?
No,
No pressure.
I still like the programs. Education, you know. People tell me, well, in Oakland, you can't leave anything in your car. I go, in the United States, you can't leave anything in your car.
You should be your spokesman.
You see the signs all over the place, but. The other thing is people tell me that, the other day I live up by 580 and I can see the cars going down my street and I hear, this is the highway patrol, pull over, we will chase you. And so I had to walk down to see what's going on. Sure enough, guy had pulled over. I think they arrested him because I saw a tow truck later. But, you know, and people in the hills always want the police to chase people. People down here, it's dangerous, especially down when they're using the bus lane in International Boulevard. You don't want a car chase going down that way. There's too many people, too many jaywalkers and everything else. That's something to think about. That's a tough decision.
Absolutely. Well, the good thing is we're all in this together.
Yes.
And so, you know, we're going to be looking forward to moving forward the process. We have 2 more meetings for the community to know that we have left. March 30th at the Infirmary Park and April 2nd, the Asian Cultural Center. And you can visit our website at oaklandca.gov/police-chief.
Yes,
I finally got
you
that
got
down,
it.
so I gotta
You
keep
got
saying
it.
But thank you all and really appreciate your time with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good talk.
All right. Yeah, you're awesome. Oh, yeah, yeah.